I think the best way to introduce displacement maps is to show a couple of examples. They're actually applied via a mask in the Objects and Animation screen, and they can be animated either with pan, zoom, rotate, or in fact all three. Once created, they could be applied to custom transitions or slide styles, of course, and that would be a good idea. A couple of displacement maps will be included in PTE AV Studio 11, but you'll also find many other examples available on the internet, and I've made one or two of my own which you can download below. In the slide list, I've added a blank slide to create the displacement effect, but I've also added an image to follow what we're about to create. So with the blank selected, I'm going to go to the Objects and Animation screen. In the bottom right, I'm going to right click and select my mask. The mask I want is this one here, Add Displacement Map Image Video. I need to navigate to wherever my masks are kept, and there's the few that I've got prepared. I'm going to pick the circles. We don't see a great deal until we put an image or video in place. So selecting the mask content, I'm going to right click and add an image. So we need an image to follow on from this one here, or to precede that one there. Let's pick a colourful sky. And there you can see the displacement map shape. Now we need to select the displacement map, because what you'll notice here is we've got hard edges to the rings that I've created. If I go to my animation tab, what I can do before we do anything else is I can add a degree of blur, and straight away we see quite a nice effect. Now to create the movement effect, we need to create some animation. The keyframe on the far left of the timeline is already selected. So I'm going to start there by going to the zoom, and I'm going to drop the zoom down to 0. I'm going to overtype the value by just typing 0 in there. And you can see what's left of the displacement map is just that tiny little dot on screen. But I'm going to right click further along the timeline and apply another keyframe. I'll clone a keyframe. I'm immediately going to go back to the zoom, click and drag to the right on the X, and there's the effect I've created. Let me put my cursor at the start and press play, and there you can see the effect we have. But I need to move my keyframes because I need to have them in a position relative to the next image. Now what I mean by that is, let me just briefly close the Objects and Animation screen, because maybe I could do with a few more seconds here. Let's increase this to 10 seconds just for display purposes, and I'll take it back into the Objects and Animation screen. Because what I want to do with both of these keyframes is to move them to the right. So the effect that we've just seen covers the fade out of this image and the fade in of the next. So where do we want this all to start? Well, that's going to be a personal choice. Let's select 6 seconds as the point, and we can have a little test of that just to make sure it's not too fast or too slow. Now that doesn't look too bad, but I think there's some variation here. We could move this probably closer towards the fade out of this particular image. Best thing to do, I think, at this point is to close this screen and do a full screen preview of exactly what we've created. So we need a few seconds for the image to be viewed, but then the displacement map effect comes into play just when the next image is fading onto the screen. Now we just need to experiment with different displacement maps and different animation. The displacement maps that I've tried from the internet don't seem to require any blur added. When I made mine, I left them sharp edged so that I could decide on the amount of blur later. Displacement maps like those where we can create ripples tend to lend themselves to custom transitions because they start their animation hidden. The ones that I've made are probably best suited to full screen use, therefore slide styles seem more appropriate. Check out my video number 94. It's called Making Masks. You'll find that on YouTube. A few weeks have passed since I first made this video. I've come back briefly to talk about the map templates that have been added to PTE 11. Now they're found in a very slightly different place, but the application and the animation of them is exactly the same as we've demonstrated here. I'm going to select the blank, open this up into the Objects and Animation screen, and we would normally go to our mask option, and in the earlier part of this video I went to this option because that's the option we would go to if we created our own displacement masks, or maybe we downloaded some from the internet. But I'll escape from that window for a moment and we'll go back, because the mask templates can be found here. They're with the original templates that we've been using for some time. So there's the original ones, but here we've got the displacement map. So if I select that, you can see I've got a number of them in this drop-down menu. Let's take a look at circle waves, and we can see the shape that you've seen used in my demonstration. Here we've got X and Y waves, but we also have the opportunity to adjust strength, and probably more importantly, the number of waves to suit the project we're making. And of course, once we've made our choice, a little bit of trial and error until we get used to using these, click OK. But of course, as usual, we won't see anything until we go to the mask content, right click, and we add an image. From here on, the mask templates here are treated exactly the same as before. We would select the mask, we would add the keyframes, and we would add the animation here. I'll see you next time.